So yesterday, me and my sister, we had this like online movie night with our parents, right? Our parents are in Taiwan. Me and my sister are here, and we set up a movie night through Discord, right? And getting my father to download Discord on his laptop in Taiwan, helping him navigate how to click join a room, watch a movie, or watch a stream is pretty is somewhat of a feat, and and I have to do that every time for some reason. Like, he doesn't remember the steps it takes to join a room and watch a movie, so every time I have to go over the steps and say, okay, you click that room, you click my face, you click watch stream, or something like that. um and every time it happens, it makes me think that my father is aging. And of course, he's aging, right? We're all aging, a baby is aging. But it really shows his age. And at first, I wasn't sure like what it was when I was talking to him this most recent time, which was yesterday. I wasn't sure if he was if there was something wrong, like cognitively. Um, or if it was like his hearing, right? Because I've also kind of heard that his hearing is starting to go, and before you start labeling me as a bad son or something, like, my parents don't really share if things are going bad for them. They also don't really share if things are going good with them. Like, I don't know if things are ever going good with them, but they definitely won't share if things are going bad. So, for example, if his hearing is starting to go, he's not going to tell me, oh, by the way, I'm not able to hear really well lately. Like, he just won't say it, right? He'll always ask me, how am I doing? But if I ask him, hey, how are you guys doing? You guys okay? We'll just get the answer like, yeah, we're fine. And then subject is changed onto us, right? So, I have heard that his hearing is starting to go, and so I like really confronted him, right? Because it is a little bit frustrating. I admit I do get a little frustrated when I have to explain how to log into Discord and join the room and watch a movie, in which I believe are like simple steps, right? Like, there's only a few buttons on the screen when you're trying to join a stream, and intuitively it's kind of at the bottom right, it's at the bottom left, it's in the middle, like intuitively, right? Now I get he's from a different generation, but he uses the computers, so I do get a little frustrated, especially I have to explain it every time we watch a movie. But I am patient. I didn't want to show the frustration because I don't think that helps, right? So I was patient in explaining, but he was always cutting me off yesterday during the explanation. So I'll be like, "Oh, okay, so and then as I'm like even beginning to explain, he'll just start saying something like, "What do I click?" And then I'm like, okay, I'm telling you, right? Okay, so you click that, but do I click this? And it's not even like he'll say, do I click this? And it's on the right button. It'll be like, do I click this? And it's like the computer shut off button, right? And I'm like, are you trolling me? Like, half the time I was wondering if he was trolling me, right? And the whole time as I was doing it, it reminded me of those like old people, like caricatures, those stereotypes of old people, right? And you're like, hey, dad, what? Hey, dad, listen, did you eat breakfast? Huh? Did I have lunch? Like, it's like, and even as I'm doing that, I think the main issue is the hearing, right? So after like all is said and done, and he got into the stream and we can start watching the movie, right? And we're just kind of waiting for our snacks to get ready. I asked him directly, right? Because I didn't think there was no, if you start to pussyfoot around with my parents, like, you'll get a lot of pussyfooting back, right? So I confronted him and I said, hey, look, what's going on, right? Like, I'm trying to give you these instructions here. You're cutting me off. You're not hearing me properly. I have to say things 5 times. And I'm like, it seems like a simple enough set of instructions, right? I'm like, what's going on? Is it your hearing? Or, and I pretty much blatantly said, is it like dementia or Alzheimer? Like, what's going on? And if I'm like mischaracterizing Alzheimer or dementia, just give me a break, right? So I said that to him and he said, no, it's my hearing. right? I can't hear properly, right? And even like as I'm giving him the directions, because even though we're speaking on Discord, he can hear me on Discord, I can hear him on Discord. For me to show him where to go, we got onto video call, right? And he pointed the camera at the computer screen. He's like, "Is it this? Is it this?" I could see him like put his ear really close because you could just see his like left side of his head with his like hair. Like I could see him put his face to the camera, like listening to my instructions. So he said, "No, it's my hearing, right? Like my hearing's starting to go." And so I like internalized that, right? Because I was like, okay, so hearing, right? Not too bad. It's not something of the mind. Because if it's of the mind, it's you're kind of like, it's a little bit more difficult to deal with, right? But I thought, okay, it's the hearing, like that's okay. Like, what can we do, right? And my dad is like one of those men or one of those people where if there's something wrong with them, they're not like actively looking to solve it. Like, and I don't mean he's so busy that I don't have time to resolve this medical issue. It's just like he just doesn't do it. Whether it's like a lack of executive function, like where do I even start? Or it's maybe just the hope that it'll get better on its own. My dad doesn't really go resolve these things on his own. And, I can see parts of myself with that too. Like sometimes I'll see maybe like a mark on my body or some kind of ill feeling. And I'm just like, well, maybe it'll go away on its own. And then, maybe I get caught up in something from life and then I don't go resolve it and it's gotten a little bit worse. And then I'm like, well, I should really go make an appointment for that. And then then I'm too busy or my doctor's not free during the weekends. And then, I never end up making that appointment. So I suppose like everybody on some level has this, right? It's just, when do I go make the time to do so? And some people, I guess, are just better at it than others, where they will go take the time to resolve these issues. But my dad's never been the one to, when he has an issue and as kids, right, we would ask him like, hey, there's this glaringly obvious medical issue you have. He'll complain about a toothache for a long, long time, right? Months. And you're like, okay, why don't you go see the dentist? You get us to go see the dentist. And he's like, oh, the dentist, they won't know what to do. And as a child, you're like, what do you mean they won't know what to do about your teeth as a dentist, right? And you want to prod further, but, if you keep prodding, you'll get some backlash on it. Like, you're just a child, right? Like, why are you talking about me? Don't be concerned about, your parents. Just be concerned about yourself. So generally the conversation kind of ends there, right? But, I'm an adult now, right? I'm a full grown man. So I'm listening to him talking about his hearing has gone and, we're watching the movie and, it's a concern, right? When you see your parents like go through certain things. So after the movie, I talked to him and I said, hey, look, what is this about your hearing? Like, have you gone to get like your hearing tested and, maybe get hearing aids, right? And he's like, oh, hearing aids are so expensive, right? And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, they probably aren't cheap, but they can't be that expensive, right? It's not a car. And I'm just wondering, like, how much is it? And then he said, I think he said like some really ridiculous number, like 100,000 like Taiwanese dollars, right? And I was like, oh, what is that? Because first I have to do some conversion. I'm not too familiar with that currency right now. And then my mom is beside him. My mom's like, it's not that ridiculous. It's in the tens of thousands, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay. That's great. Tens of thousands. Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the low tens or are we talking about the high tens, right? Because that's severely different, right? And then he's like, oh, it's like 50,000, right? And when I was young, it was just said to me, like someone said it to me that 500 Taiwanese dollars is about 20 Canadian dollars, right? So I started using, and hopefully the currencies haven't changed that much. I started using that conversion. So 500 Taiwanese dollars is 20 Canadian dollars. Then 5,000 Taiwanese dollars is 200 Canadian dollars. Then 50,000 Taiwanese dollars is 2,000 Canadian dollars. Right? I just started adding the zeros, the decimals. And so I was like, oh, okay. So what is it, like $2,000? And then Canadian dollars. He's like, yeah, it's like that. I was like, okay, like, why don't you just go get yourself fitted, go get the test done, right? See how much it costs. And then I'll send you the money, right? And I can't send him like $2,000 outright. Like, I can if I like withdraw from my savings, right? But I was thinking like, maybe every paycheck I can send him like $500 or something, right? So 4 paychecks or 2 months, he can have some hearing aids, right? And then he like heard that and he was like, oh no, like I have money, like don't worry, like, oh, you're such a good son, like I'll take care of it, right? And then but I was thinking like, cause like, okay, so when are you gonna take care of it? Like, what's the plan? When's the date you're gonna go get it fitted? And then he was like, oh, I don't want to get them. Like, it'll make me look too old. I don't want to look old, right? And like, this is a man who, when I saw him, like, he's completely bald, like, boom, like, front to back, right? Like, he has the hair on the side, but he's just completely bald. And isn't it funny, like, as teens or young adults, we want to shave the side of our head and keep the top. And then as you're older, when you don't have the top, you're just holding on to the sides of your head. Like, I just think that's funny. But he is like completely like burned out, right? It's almost like if he accidentally fell face first into like the reversing wheels of the back of a car and it just shaved off like the middle of his hair, right? And he was like, I don't want to look old, right? And he has no hair up top, right? And I'm like, okay, like, who don't you want to look old for? Like, you already look old, right? Like, like, who don't you want to, and you're with your mom, like my mom, your wife right there. Like, what do you mean you don't want to look old? Like, he was like in a tank top. He's super skinny. Like, he almost looked like, like a zombie from like a movie, a zombie movie, right? And I'm like, who don't you want to look old for? Like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, for myself, right? Like, I don't want that kind of mental vision of myself of that I'm getting old, right? And, when someone says that, you can't exactly say, like, you're wrong. All right, I hear what you're saying. You don't want to see yourself getting old, thus start to feel old. What am I going to say, right? So the conversation was kind of left there, but I was left with many more questions than I originally started with, because I'm thinking to myself, if you have to yell and put your ear up to somebody just to hear a proper conversation, does that not make you feel old? If you have to get your child to repeat things 5 times and yell over them because you couldn't hear that they were talking, doesn't that make you feel old and incompetent? It just blows my mind what certain people prioritize. And sometimes someone might prioritize a visual representation of themselves rather than a functional representation of themselves. I started to think about the people that go through surgery, right? When they're old, plastic surgery, and they're like, oh, this will make me look good. And maybe they get some, what are those things that like make your skin like really tight? Botox, right? But then their skin looks awkwardly tight. Or they get lip fillers because they're like, oh, now I get full lips. But then they kind of look like, a duck or some kind of Barbie doll or something. So it really makes me have those thoughts when I was talking to him yesterday, and I just couldn't continue, because while I'm trying to resolve this man's issues, I have issues of my own, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, all right, at some point I have to just let it be, right? If this is my dad, this is my dad. I got to work on getting myself 100% so that if I ever have children, I don't share the same traits with them that my dad was displaying to me. And I just hope that when I interact with people, I'm not burdening them with how I felt my dad was burdening me. Um, and like I don't want to sound like a bad child, but you know what? Like that's how I felt, right? You can't judge me, okay? But when I was dealing with him yesterday, I felt really burdened, right? Like, hey, like you can't hear me, so I have to shout, and I'm okay with shouting, but when I'm shouting, you gotta stop talking. And and there will be times when I'm trying to help him set up the Discord to watch the TV, and he's like, I don't know how to do this. Mom, you do this. Like, mom, my mom, his wife, you do this. And then I'm just like listen for like 10 seconds, and I can walk you through doing this, right? But he's like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm getting a little bit frustrated. I'm not getting frustrated. Like, mom, you do this. And then my mom would be the one to pick up the pieces, right? And when I see my mom, I'm just like, and thankfully my mom is healthier looking. At least she has her hair. The hair's black. It might be dyed, right? But she has black hair. She's able to speak with us cognitively in a cognizant way. She did mention how her vision is kind of dwindling around like the corner. I didn't even know that was a thing that people could get as they age, that you could get more tunnel vision, like the vision around your eyes could get closer and closer. I didn't know that was a thing. It sounds very fucking scary. And I asked her if she was scared. And she didn't directly answer that. She said, oh, it's been a thing that's been happening for a while. And and I didn't know how to answer that. And I felt like if I tried to diagnose that, mom, what do you need? What's the price tag on that? Whatever it is, there something that could fix that? She'll be like, oh, don't worry about it, faster than my dad might. And then my dad might jump in and say, oh, don't worry about us. You worry about you. And, I'm left. But I have to witness you guys deteriorate and not particularly move towards steps to age yourself. And God, it's not a good feeling. And I wish I don't burden anybody with that. And now it's starting to make sense why you want to go out into the world and make yourself look good. At first I thought to myself, like, why would you make yourself look good for other people? Like, you don't like this, is every one of your actions for the benefit of others? Like, but on some levels, you want to go out there, make yourself look good because you don't want your loved ones to worry, right? And if your loved ones are worried, then that's good of them, and you shouldn't deprive them of that natural human reaction to perhaps your deterioration. But at the same time, you should take steps towards getting yourself better so that they're not worried needlessly. But I also think about how I need to do better. Yesterday, when I had the conversation with my parents, it was such a sobering conversation. Like, just before meeting up with my parents on Discord to watch the movie, I was still thinking about getting pussy, right? I was still thinking about like, oh, what do I need to do? Like, like how do I get that young pussy, right? Like, how do I get the hottest piece of pussy? Like, and after having this conversation with my parents, like, I'm not even like concerned with pussy anymore. Like, I'm thinking to I have this like sick feeling in my stomach. Like, God, I am not doing well. I'm at some like $65,000 a year job. I have like $20,000 in savings. Like, I can't buy a house. I'm 32 years old. I want a house. If I could take some money out and get my parents well, but they're not exactly saying, okay, do it, here's the amount. So I'm not comfortable in doing that because I need some of their assistance. Like what's a vision clinic in Taiwan? What's a hearing clinic in Taiwan? And maybe I can do it. Maybe I'm just making excuses. But I want to make more money so that I'm able to just do this comfortably with a click of a finger. Maybe I'll even get some representative in Taiwan to do it for me, to set it up for them. So everybody's comfortable. So they don't think I'm stretching my finances to help them. I could look comfortable helping them, and I could still move towards a house myself. I'm just so curious. Like, those are the thoughts I was hit with. I felt a little bit ashamed that I was, in the position I am where I couldn't exactly help them. But I want to take that motivation and move forward in a way so that I am someone that can help them in the future. Like, just before they pass, I want to do something nice for them. God, like, let me do one thing nice for them. I don't know if they want like a nice car in Taiwan. Streets are so tight. There could be jealousy. Roads aren't fully paved. But like, at least the hearing aids, right? Like, I want to get them the hearing aids, and then maybe get my mom like a consult. So like, what can we do about the eye, the tunneling of the eye? So I know the hearing aids is about $2,000. That's on my mind right now, $2,000. And then I don't know how much the consult for the eye will be. I don't know if my mom wants to do it because it probably sounds like surgery. She did mention she's taking medication to slow down that process, but maybe there's a better way. I'm not sure, but maybe that's around another $2,000. So now I kind of want like $4,000 just around so that I can slowly move towards like, okay, how do I set up a hearing clinic consult, get the hearing aids, but does he want the hearing aids? It's just a lot of questions. So, after what was supposed to be a happy family time, I'm now left with these questions of, death is coming for us all, And I'm sorry to put that on you guys, but it was something that was on my chest, and I just, someone has to hear it, right? And thank you for listening to it. I want to leave it there. This episode is all bitter. This episode is all down feeling, all sour feeling. But in that bitter and sour feeling, there's some sobriety to be felt, because I was honestly just stuck on like thinking about like pussy, and it's not just pussy. It's, relationships, right? Like, how do I get a hot girl to be my girlfriend? Like, it's so trivial. My thoughts are so trivial. And when I'm confronted with these realities of life, I get to sober up a little bit, And I think that when you're, and I don't know if that has something to do with the fact that I'm like the youngest child in the family. And often when I try to get involved with the family, like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on, right? Tell me, they always say like, don't worry about it. And then so I'm like, well, what can I worry about then? Just my own feelings, I guess. So I grew up, I think, in my opinion, pretty selfish. I only really consider my own feelings, and I might consider somebody else's feelings if I'm trying to get on their good side because maybe I like them. Maybe it's a guy that I think is cool or a girl that I think is hot, and I'm trying to get on their good side. So I'm like, all right, let me consider their feeling. How do I, how do I like make their life better, right? And I think that's just like everybody's way of attracting people. How do I make people's lives better, right? An attractive woman might make your life better by being just goddamn attractive, right? And you're like, I want that. And then a smart man might make your life better by giving you things you never thought about, right? The way I feel like I benefit others is through like pure like joy and euphoria. Like because that's the only thing that I was really allowed to think about when I was a child. It's just, don't worry about it, focus on you. So whatever I want selfishly is How do I make myself happier? My own joy, my own euphoria. So I feel like a lot of times when I make other people's lives better, it's through like, how do we have the most fun? How do we get the most euphoric right now? Whether it's eating some really good food, or when I was younger, it's, you know, hey, I have some drugs. Like, do you want drugs? Like, you know, let's do drugs. Like, you know, and I really, and I'm okay if that's my main, like, and maybe this falls under the Western teachings of like, you know, what's your love language, right? And maybe my love language is gift giving or something. But, and I'm okay with that being mine, but I want my gift giving to be more effective and more meaningful than just, hey, let me, you know, I can get you a nice tray of sushi. Let's go out. I can order a sushi. Like, that seems to be like just what I can really afford to give right now. Obviously, I have $20,000 saved up. I can fucking buy someone a used Honda, but like, that'll just render me broke. I don't like, if I'm talking about what I can afford to give, it sounds like it's just a tray of, you know, a good food, a good bottle of alcohol, or a nice day out. But I can't change someone's lives right now. I can't. Oh, Dad, your hearing's going? No worries. I'll set it up. Just go to this clinic in 2 months or in a week, and they'll get you right. You know, oh, Mom, your vision is going? You know, don't worry. I have a friend in Taiwan who knows his doctor. They'll get you right. You know, I'm, you know, I gotta get better. I feel like I gotta get out there. Thank you guys for letting me say that. I just wanted to say that because it's on my mind. It's on my heart, and I didn't know who to say that to. So thank you guys for letting me say that. But guys, that's the September 22nd, 2024 entry of the Tony Kuviorno. I will see you guys in the next entry. Goodbye.